tonight, so we really appreciate quiet voices while we get the program started. If your fellow friend is talking, please let's quietly come inside.
We have lots of seats.
Yeah, and please come in and fill the seats. I appreciate it. And Matt, you're up here. Sorry, Councilmember Weyer, you're up here. Okay. Everybody who's outside, you're welcome to come in. I know it's a little bit hot. Come on in. Fill up the seats. Okay, so aloha. Aloha. Thank you. Good evening. My name is Denise Angelini. I'm a Pupukea resident and proud to be here as part of the Save Sharks Cove Coalition to welcome you here tonight to this community update. Before I speak, we're going to have an Oli by Kaleohano Ferrant to set the stage, and then I'll resume and share some things. We'll have a few other people from the coalition, and then we're really privileged tonight to have Councilmember Matt Weyer, Dr. Jim Ireland, and Director Kurt Lager. You will have a good opportunity to hear from each of them, and then we'll have Q&A. And we also have a little presentation by Blake McElhaney. So we have a lot to share with you and plenty of opportunity for questions as well as mingling. So thank you for coming. I'm going to turn it over to Kaleohano.
Hey, aloha everybody. My name is Vance Kaleohano Ferrant. Grew up in Honolulu near Rocky Point, and I'll be sharing an Oli with all of you to start our evening together to center our thoughts around caring for Aina, caring for this place that all of us here clearly love, and setting strong intentions for thinking about how we can better care for the places that we love, that we want to be lush and full of people as well as thriving Aina. E aloha no ka aina ulu vehi ke aloha o nā kupunae. E puna vai i ke kau i ka hano vale o ka po'oe. E ho mai ka mau popopono, pono mai uka i ka ie. Alohai, alohai, alohai. Mahalo.
So good evening again. I want to talk a little bit about why we're here, a little bit about past, present, and future. So why we're here, it's billed as a community update because the community deserves good information and updated information. And you'll meet other members of the organizing committee of the Alliance. What we have found in all the various conversations we've had with neighbors and friends is that people think it's already a done deal. And actually I think Rex and Corey maybe ran into somebody recently who started to cry when they realized that it's not a done deal yet. So we're here to provide you the information you need to help make it happen. And as you saw from some of the tables outside, according to Mayor Blangiardi from the town hall, it's a doable thing, right? So chant with me. It's a doable thing. It's a doable thing. It's a doable thing. We can do this. This community has been engaged in so many community-led initiatives, right? And they eventually succeed, but not without hard work, not without support of our elected officials, the administration. So it's also a kako thing. Let me talk first about, when I said what's happening at our tagline, what's happening at Sharks Cove. A lot of people think like you're going to tell me about the Rockwell project. So quickly, in the water, if you are down there, we call it kapo'o. The traditional name for Sharks Cove is kapo'o. I'm with Malama Pupukea Waimea, and we're out there doing a lot of marine surveys. You might see our team out there surveying people on the bike path. There's a lot happening in the water and in the beach park, which I'm happy to tell you about. Just find me after the meeting. So it's not, there's just like a lot of eyes and ears down there on what's going on in the beach park and the water. The Rockwall project, which has been an inconvenience but was necessary because not everybody knows this, 50% of the subsurface was compromised. Right, so that parking lot was, and I think I heard some good news from Kelly Anaya from Councilmember Weyer's office that they are proceeding quickly and ahead of schedule. Let me say that without promising. So that's good news. That's good news. But one of the things we've learned from that experiment is that, or that project, is really exacerbated the chaos down there, right? And I have actually a statement to share with you from Representative Quinlan about that, and I'll make sure to read that to you. So that, eventually will resolve. Malama Pupukea Waimea is working with the Land Trust, with Kaleo Hano and the North Shore Community Land Trust, trying to extend the bike path through the Sharks Cove parking lot so that residents can come back and safely enjoy and love the area. We're looking at the erosion issues, the overcrowding, so there's a lot going on. But what we're going to talk about tonight is Mauka. So this community, for going back to the past, where's Cora? Early 2000s, Cora Sanchez and others of you in the community remember the No Mall at Sharks Cove battle, right? Those stickers are still good, by the way. we reprint them. But that was a big battle from the prior owners of that parcel who wanted to build a huge shopping mall there. They went through part of the process. They actually did an environmental assessment, and the community really pushed back hard. Cora was tabling with many others. A lot of you were involved in that, and that proposal was defeated. Then it was dormant for a while, right? It was Chet's truck, the surf shop, the bikini shop. It was pretty quiet. And the Dubiel dentist office and Elaine Naimi's real estate office. It was pretty quiet. And in 2014, a new owner purchased the property, and immediately that's when we started seeing activity. Our former Senator Gil Riviere was absolutely right on it and started sending letters. What are they doing digging holes on the property? Turned out that there was a lot of activity on the property that did not have permits. And then there were a lot of, let's just say, invalid applications for development. It's a long story. Two things happened that you should note. We were going to do a timeline, but you're getting it orally. The developer who currently owns the property would like to develop a 32,500 square foot retail shopping mall on site. The plans are right back there on the back wall. Those are the plans. And to do that, the developer went through an EIS process. I brought, and somewhere out there, copies of the EIS. A lot of you participated in commenting on the EIS. One of the things that the EIS showed by their own consultants is that wastewater from the project would leach into the tide pools in the cove. And that deeply concerns those of us who care about that place. And Marvin Heskett here, who plays many roles but is with Surfrider, also helped us monitor a lot of sedimentation that was coming off the property and right into the marine reserve, big plumes of sedimentation. So during that whole process, there was a lot of issues with that property. Then in 2018, when the EIS was done, the developer went to the city council. The chair at the time was Ernie Martin, and persuaded the city council to approve a special management area, which is basically the development permit. So that was approved in late 2018. Save Sharks Cove Alliance, Cora as an individual, Larry as an individual and John Teals as an individual. They are our heroes. They were willing to stand up and be plaintiffs on behalf of the community and sue our friends at the city and sue the developer to try to invalidate that special management area permit. So there was litigation. We ended up about a year or so later settling. And so all of a sudden, did you see like planters went up on the property and the activity along the highway got pushed back and things quieted down? That was because the community put those conditions in the settlement agreement. The settlement agreement has a lot of provisions in it. It's not a secret that we don't think they're being complied with. We are still pursuing that battle. You can talk to us about that privately, but there is still an ongoing legal process. Let's put it that way. While that whole process was going on, in March, I think, of 2023, a former Ocean Safety Chief, John Titchen, and Dr. Ireland with HESD came to our Sunset Beach Community Association, some of you were there, and said, you guys need a first responder center. So that's our focus tonight. So I just wanted to provide you that history, and we're moving forward. Our focus is trying to get a first responder center on that site across from Sharks Cove. And you're gonna hear, thank to our experts tonight, more about those details, but it's really important that you absorb them and learn them and share them, because it is not a done deal. We have a ways to go, but with your support, we can do this. It's a doable thing. It's a doable thing. It's a doable thing. All right, fantastic. So I'm going to turn it over to Rex next to talk about what we've been up to.
Well, I hope you can hear me. I can project pretty well because I teach third graders down the road at Sunset Beach Elementary, and I've done that. This is my 37th year. I have a lot of support from my husband, Ed Shanahan, wherever he is. So I'm up here because I love our neighborhood. I've lived out here since 1974, so that makes me out here 50 years, and I love our community. I'm an Army brat, as well as my husband. We went to Fort Knox High together, and I've always wanted to belong to a community. I had to go to 3 high schools, and so I never felt like I belonged. And when I came to the North Shore, it gave me that opportunity to belong there, and I have belonged. I'm also the vice president of the North Shore Outdoor Circle. The Outdoor Circle is a 112-year-old garden club that started because they were putting billboards up at the base of Diamond Head. And these ladies got together and said, no way, no billboards. They bought the billboard companies, they dismantled the billboards. This is before we had the vote. And you see no billboards, no aerial advertising, and we're really strict with signage. So I'm the vice president of the North Shore branch. There are branches on all the islands. And that's one of the reasons our islands are so wonderful and beautiful. I'm also in charge of the bike path. I've been on that for 35 years, I think. We're getting a new one, yay! Yeah, we got $500,000 in the budget last year, and right now it's in the planning and design phase. And I put in a few thousand hours, because we used to have a dance at Waimea, some of you may remember it, to raise money for the bike path. We went for 18 years, every autumn we had the Harvest Moon dance. And so people adopted gardens along the bike path. So like I said, I've always wanted to belong. I feel like I'm gonna start crying. And so I feel so fortunate to be able to belong to this community. And preserving Sharks Cove and preserving our rural character is what our sustainability plan calls for and what's right for our neighborhood. So I'm glad everybody's here tonight, and I'm so glad that you're so supportive of this effort. We just have to do it. It's a doable thing. And that was from the mayor at our town hall in June. We can do it, but we just have to keep moving forward and being positive, because it's what's right for our community. Thank you.
Okay, unable to speak, because she's got laryngitis or something, but just, can we just please thank Cora for all of her amazing testimony? Okay, Larry and then Courtney.
You know, pass these out, see if you can get everybody to get one of those. That'd be great.
Pass it down.
My name's Larry McElhenney. I appreciate everybody being here. It's just a fantastic turnout. And we have, as you can see, we have a dedicated nucleus of citizens that live here, and our elected council member and Dr. Ireland and so on. A lot of people care about this community deeply and have put hours and hours and years into trying to keep the country. And what I'd like to do is, I've spent a lot of time reading through all these documents. You have the Sustainable Communities Plan. This is every 10 years or so the community comes together, and it's a broad cross-section of the community. You have business, realtors, school teachers, the whole array of people that participate in developing these documents. And like I said, every 10 years or so, a new one comes out, and it basically explains a vision for the different districts on the island. Now there's a new one is in the works as we speak. A draft should be coming out at any moment, and I have a pretty good hunch that the new one is going to say basically what the old one said. And what it says is keep the country, keep the area rural. So that's one of the documents that I'm going to be talking about briefly, is called the Sustainable Communities Plan. Another document that I'm going to talk about a little bit came out of the lawsuit that Denise described to you folks. You know, a lot of times a lawsuit will not end up before a jury or before a judge. It will be settled. And the parties, they'll come up with what's called a mutual settlement agreement. So I'm going to share some quotes from the mutual settlement agreement that we came up with when we negotiated with the developer. I need to get one of those back. So what I have here are quotations that refer to this specific piece of property. And I know a little bit about this because back when this version was done, I served on a committee that discussed that particular piece of property in detail. And we had some language included in the Sustainable Communities Plan that basically, well, I'll ask you to help me read some of these. Any volunteers want to read the first one here? Come on, you can do it, don't be shy. Okay, I'll do the first one. This is from the Sustainable Communities Plan. It says, as Honolulu and its suburban areas continue to grow and become increasingly urbanized, it has become more important to maintain the North Shore as an essential haven and respite from the more urbanized areas of Honolulu, of Oahu. Somebody want to read the next one?
I'll read it. Design rural community commercial centers to provide a compact and efficient organization of various commercial services which primarily serve the immediate community.
Very good. I'd like to emphasize, which primarily serve the immediate community. Keep that in mind. How about the next one?
Emphasize commercial and civic establishments that serve the immediate residential community.
Okay, you see a theme emerging here? Okay, then, actually I was waving this around. This is what's called the technical report for the Sustainable Communities Plan. And this has a meeting, minutes of all the meetings, and if any changes were recommended, justified in here. It tells why the change was recommended and so on and so forth. So quoting from this document, right up front, very first thing it says, retention of the rural character was the single most important issue for the North Shore community. Okay? I think we all agree with that. And then the next one, anybody want to try this one? There.
Intended to clarify the intent of the rural community commercial center designation and ensure that future proposals are limited in size and scope and are designed more for area residents and visitors.
Everybody hear that?
No, they're
Okay. Proposed revisions are intended to clarify the intent of the rural community commercial center designation and ensure that future proposals are limited in size and scope and are designed more for area residents than visitors. Wow, that sounds pretty good to me. Okay, Denise mentioned the special management area permit that the council granted to this developer. But before they granted that permit, they attached conditions. In other words, we'll give you the permit, but you have to do A, B, C, D, and so on. Condition E is critical. Now, let me read condition E to you. This is from the special management area permit. The project must provide for a mix of tenants, that's the people that lease the space, that primarily cater to area residents by providing convenient and essential services for the surrounding community. Get the drift? Okay, now it gets really good. Now we jump to the settlement agreement. This is the mutual settlement agreement that arose out of our lawsuit. Developer agrees to establish and maintain a business tenant operation mix that is consistent with the North Shore Sustainable Community Plan and B1 zoning. Okay? That sounds good. The developer agrees to prohibit the use of the property for events that cater primarily to tourists rather than the immediate residential community. Downplay the tourists. Is consistent with the aim to cater to residents in the surrounding area and not to tourists. Cater to residents in the surrounding area and not to tourists passing by. Further, the developer will regulate the food truck operations under both the SMA minor and SMA major to avoid an atmosphere designed and intended primarily to attract tourists and avoid catering to tourists. The city land use ordinance, B1 zoning, this is the last quote. The intent of the B1 neighborhood business zoning district, that's what we're talking about, is to provide relatively small areas which serve the daily retail and other business needs of the surrounding population. So, the official documents say maintain the rural atmosphere, don't cater to tourists, and I, for one, expect the developer to comply with what this says. Thank you.
Corey's going to be next, about 2 minutes, yeah. We also did a survey of the Sunset Beach Community Association members a couple of years ago, and those members overwhelmingly thought that those provisions that Larry explained were not being complied with. And I just want to ask you, what percentage of the customers on that site right now do you think are local? Shout it out. 10%. Community knows it's community, yeah? Corey.
Hi everyone. I'm Corey. I'm your neighbor. My husband teaches at Sunset Elementary School. My daughter's back there. Oh, excuse me. Real quick, I'm so happy you folks are here today. What I do want to touch upon is that we stand upon the shoulders of the people who came before us. So 20 years ago, when I was a bartender at Breakers, I was running around, all I cared about was surfing, and that's all I did, and then I became a teacher, right? And so these guys were out here doing the work, and I remember like, oh, I don't want a ball, but that was 20 years ago, and here we are today, and what I wanted to make a shout out to are the people who are here, but also people who are my age, and also people who are one generation younger. And if you are here, that is amazing, because these are cohorts of babies are being born. Like, I have a cohort of babies. There's one generation after me having a cohort of babies, big baby shower, like right next to my house. And I think about how I raised my child. We think about our community. And yes, there is the idea of private land ownership. We understand that. But what you do with your private land affects the people that live around that private land. And we just humbly ask for us to be heard. It affects how we surf. It affects how we get from one place to the other place. And so we asked to be considered and heard, and to please pay attention to our 8,000 signature scroll of people who would prefer a first responder center. There's even like a no build option versus the black and white photo with the 2-story, whatever that is, large thing. And so I ask us to think about like our community and to get our younger people involved, because that's their babies. If they want to have that nice, childhood that I was so blessed with, and some people I hear grew, these kids that grew up here, then that's what we need to fight for. So that's all.
Blake is going to be next. In front of me is the petition that we've had a survey out since November. Over 8,200 people have voiced their support for the First Responder Center at Sharks Cove. We encourage you, when you have time, do the QR code and sign the petition. I also have a message from Representative Sean Quinlan as Blake's getting set up. He wrote to me this morning because he couldn't be here tonight, because the House is a little busy right now with their reorg. The intent of the legislature is to work with the county to make Sharks Cove a residents-only parking lot. The commercial property across the street creates excessive traffic and is an ongoing disaster for pedestrian safety. If we want to move to the next phase of tourism that funds our budget but doesn't impact our quality of life, it is critical that we limit commercial activity in places like Sharks Cove. The needs of our community, our residents, must come before the needs of our visitors. Representative Sean Quinlan.
How's it? My name is Blake McElhinney. I was raised in Pupukea. Fortunate that my dad Larry has been involved with many of you in a variety of different land conservation and community activities over the years. Very grateful that Corey had a chance to briefly speak, because she's the producer of this short video clip that we're going to be watching now, that many people in the community help contribute to. And what it does, in my mind, it serves as a transition for our thought process. My dad laid out many of the planning documents that explain that, of course, we want our lands in this region to be serving us, the public, and us as residents. And we're so fortunate that Dr. Ireland, Director Lager, Councilmember Weyer, and even the mayor have caught on to the concept that that property there at Sharks Cove would be really, truly serving the residents and putting residents first with a first responder center. So if you could bear with us as we dim the lights, make sure the volume is okay, and we're gonna have a short video piece that some of you may have seen, but it's great to watch it as a group. And what it does is it summarizes how a first responder center will be perfect at that location. Oh.
Lifeguards, firefighters, police officers, EMTs are critical to any community, but especially here on the North Shore, where everything is kind of derived off the ocean and the way that we interact with the beaches and the activities that we have outdoors.
A North Shore First Responder Center would be so helpful in saving lives out at the North Shore. The thought of an ambulance having to come all the way from Kahuku, maybe even Kaneohe, or all the way from Wailua, or maybe even Wahiwa, it's unacceptable. A North Shore First Responder Center right there at Sharks Cove is going to save lives, no doubt about it. The response time is going to be like that. The community deserves it.
So we took this idea to the community to get input from them, since they lived there and they knew their community best. And what they told us was overwhelmingly they would like us to be on a commercial property in the Sharks Cove area. And so we've taken that to heart.
The proposed lifeguard and ambulance headquarters across from Sharks Cove and adjacent to the fire station, I believe is a really centrally located space. The lifeguard facilities are deteriorating, and so I think it's going to be really helpful for the community.
We're all going to get older. We're all going to need emergency medical services. We're all going to need help at some point in our lives, whether it be for our age, whether it be for an accident, whether it be for ocean, mountain, rescue, anything. It's going to happen. It's not if, it's when. We just as a community would benefit from having all these resources available for us here on the North Shore.
So, how about a round of applause for Corey and everyone? Real quickly, I wanted to acknowledge Kyle Lopez from Inform Design. He's right here in the front. You can raise your hand. Helped us with some of the digital imagery that really serves to help you visualize in that short video clip. And also, just today I was able to pick up from the printers, this is a visualization. This is a drone aerial shot, and then you can see here the proposed North Shore First Responder Center superimposed on the 3-acre property there. The intent is really to use only 1/3 of the property for those facilities, and roughly 2/3 would maintain as open space, which is perfect, basically, since it's right next to a marine life conservation district. I just want to very briefly just go over 2 or 3 of the other visuals so that you, which if you have a chance after the meeting, you can come and take a look. This map here visualizes where existing ambulances are stationed along our coastline. So we're very fortunate to have one in Haleiwa Town, across from that preschool. We're very fortunate to have one in Kahuku next to the fire station and the police station. And then the Sharks Cove location would be perfectly located, roughly 10 minutes drive in between those 2 pre-existing stations. So anyone, I see Jesse out here, any other first responders will be able to attest to 10 minutes can make a huge difference, and actually 30 seconds, 1 minute can make a difference. And so for anyone in our community, reducing that travel time from either the Haleiwa ambulance station or the Kahuku fire station has Mark Cunningham stated can make the difference between a successful outcome. I do want to state that I think we're all super grateful to our Ocean Safety Division, we're super grateful to our Emergency Services Division, but they've already stated that they would love to improve the services that they provide to the public. So I think that we're using their enthusiasm and their existing great work to say, hey, let's do some more of that directly in our community. And then the last two slides, these are also through the hard work of many of the community members and input from the lifeguards and from Dr. Ireland and others. Very fortunate that Kyle's firm, Inform Design, was able to assist us putting these together. We tried to break it down into phases, a phase 1 and a phase 2. Just to real quickly show, phase 1 would involve utilizing some of the existing buildings there. I think Denise gave a great overview of some of the existing buildings. People may remember going to the dentist there, the old real estate office. So some of those structures could be utilized on a short-term basis as the area where an ambulance could park there, plug in for electricity, whatever is needed. So a very low impact right off the bat within 2024 to 2027 would make a lot of sense to immediately get those services out in our community. And then just to very briefly highlight phase 2, the time frame that we're trying to understand from City Council, and Director Ireland I'm sure knows more, working alongside Ocean Safety and the Mayor's budgeting process. Phase 2 would involve brand new buildings, roughly the same footprint, but we want to provide world-class facilities for the lifeguards and the paramedics and EMTs that basically are saving lives on a daily basis for our community. They deserve the best, and that will make it so that they can deliver their services in an even better way, and a way for our community to acknowledge their hard work and the value that they provide. So you see an area for the jet skis, an area for the lifeguards, trucks, and really kind of upgrading the existing facilities that they already have. You might be familiar with the facilities down at Rockpile. The beauty of the whole situation is that the Sunset Beach Fire Station is directly across the street. Many of us have run into situations when you're trying to describe to someone where you can go to go get help. So this location will be a great way if someone needs help and they can drive directly and get services either from lifeguards, fire, or ambulance. So I'm just really grateful for everyone's hard work putting together these visualizations, because I think it helps as we move through these discussions when we're having the community try and explain not only to our public agencies but also to the private landowner the value that this property can serve in terms of serving the public, serving residents, and saving lives, and the legacy that it will leave for that family that's the current landowner. So we're really excited about the possibilities and grateful for everyone who's helping provide these visualizations that can help build the momentum that everyone's been working really hard for in the last decades or so. So thank you very much for the opportunity, and keep up the great work, everybody.
I have to tell you one of my favorite Blake McElhaney quotes. Dream big and big things will happen, yeah? Thank you, Kyle, Corey. There's a lot of labor of love in that, so thanks so much. All right, we're transitioning to our very special guest tonight. I made a super long lay for Director Lager. I just got to figure out which one it is. Not that the other gentlemen aren't tall as well, but that one I gave a little extra to. So first, mahalo to our Councilmember Matt Weyer. Does that look like it'll fit? Which one's the longest one? To Director Lager. Oh, Dr. Ireland. I have to say I was madly like extra length for them. So we're gonna have Councilmember Weyer speak first, and then Director Ireland, I think, next, and Director Lager. You're gonna learn a little bit about process going forward, but we also want you to learn about what emergency services does for the North Shore and why we have this puka we need to fill. And congratulations to Director Lager, because we now have an ocean safety department. Yeah. Yay! And I will make a pitch here, because when you get your general election ballot in November, there's a charter amendment 3, vote yes on 3 because it will support the Ocean Safety Commission. So yes on 3, yes on 3, yes on 3. With that, Councilmember Weyer, who has been incredibly helpful and has a lot of information to share with us.
If I get too quiet, anyone in the back, if you can't hear me, just raise your hand and that'll signal for me to speak a little bit louder. But thank you everyone for coming out tonight. This is truly amazing. You know, particularly everyone that spoke before, you know, Denise, Rex, Cora, Larry, Blake, Corey, and everyone that worked on the video we saw, and just all the work that you're doing really is inspiring, right? Because you care about the community and when you want what's best for the community. And when we look at what's been laid out, you know, it's so rare for the community to come forward with a plan that's already put together and almost ready to go. And so in my mind, it's just more testament to why this makes sense for this city and why we should work as hard as we can to materialize it. I want to say mahalo to Dr. Ireland, you know, for the past year. I know we've been talking about ways to increase first responder services to the district, and you know, I'll let him share a little bit more about that. And of course, super stoked to work with Director Lager. As Denise said, historic, right? To have, for the first time, a standalone ocean safety department. And we're so lucky to have Director Lager leading it right now. So could we just get another round of applause for him? So just to give you a little bit more insight in terms of where the budget is, because I know that's come out in some of the discussions, and just the role that we can play, particularly myself and then also my colleagues at the council. I think our biggest role is to ensure, whether it's this project or any project, right, that there's funding in the budget to support what the community needs, right? And so that's why we put in funding into this year's budget to support planning and design for First Responders Hub. And we've had conversations with admin since then, Mayor's Chief of Staff, you know, and the directors about how we can either release those funds or find other funding sources to begin that process at looking at where a First Responders Hub could go. And I say that because, you know, in terms of where we're at now, particularly with Sharks Cove, you know, we've all had conversations with the developer. I know Mayor has talked about it. He made that commitment at the town hall, and I can't speak for him, but the feedback I've gotten from him is the same that I've heard as well, that at this point, the owner isn't interested in selling the parcel, right? And so going forward from here, I can tell you that if we get to the point where he's willing, I do think we can find funding in the budget. You know, I know there's the Clean Water Natural Land Fund, that an application can go in from the city with sign off from the owner. There's about $40 million in that fund that can be used for the purchase of sensitive spaces. And we have all these different layout ideas, but I think when you look at it, you can see how really this path would both help provide life-saving services for our community while also preserving a space that's so important, you know, and next to a place that's so ecologically sensitive. And so that's really what I wanted to share in terms of where we're at. You know, I do think we need to begin the planning process and identifying parcels, and my hope is that we can come up with a plan with admin to look at all the available parcels on North Shore and not rule out Sharks Cove. Of course, as I said, if we get to the point where we have a willing seller, I'm more than happy to make materialize and make that happen. And so I'll take Q&A, but maybe we'll have the directors come up and share too. And so I'll still be around, but just wanted to kind of share that and appreciate everyone coming out tonight.
Just a little footnote to what Councilmember Weyer accomplished for us, and a lot of you testified, is $500,000 added to the budget in order to move this along. That was not easy, even though there was 100% support. So it's a critical step forward. Dr. Ireland, please join us. Dr. Ireland has been a great friend, both for me me personally and on this project. He's been super supportive. We have some fun tours of facilities together.
Our Kahuku
Incredibly
crew is
helpful.
here.
Yeah.
So I just want, I'm not gonna put them on the spot and make them talk, but tell them where your last transport went.
Kapiolani from Kuhuku.
A child, a youngster, somebody, a juvenile.
Yeah.
Teenager, but he called Kahuku and they said, we can't take that here, it's too sick for us, you need to go to Kapiolani. How long were you gone?
At least 3 hours.
Okay, there you go. So thank you. You're welcome to stay up so can I borrow this and take it to city council next year? So we add ambulances for two reasons. Actually, I'm gonna get back to this. I'm excited. It's so great to have this many people here. And this, I went to something like this in another part of the island and had like 5 people. And that kind of energy doesn't get anything done, even though those 5 were just as committed as everybody in here. So Honolulu Emergency Services Department, let me back up even further. Honolulu used to have a health department. It was ambulance and it was health services, which are our occupational health unit. That's how it was for years. We had doctors, we had these little clinics like in Waipahu and Wailupi. This is back in the 40s, 50s, and 60s. About 20 or so years ago, health department dissolved, ambulance became EMS, and ocean safety came out of parks. They didn't want to be in parks. They felt they didn't belong there. They wanted to be a first responder, so we got together to make Honolulu Emergency Services Department. And what I've said about this is an evolution. 20 years ago, that was an evolution. Now this year we've had another evolution with the Ocean Safety Department. Because for a lot of reasons, the lifeguards felt they would be better served with a single focused chief or director, and I think EMS will too. So when the mayor got elected, I'm actually, my civil service position is I'm the EMS chief, but I was appointed as the emergency services director, so like I'm my own boss now, except at home. But when we came in, with the new mayor, I went and I knew the station at Rock Piles, and I'll let Director Lager talk about that. Unacceptable for a facility for first-class lifeguards. So the mayor said, hey, this is a priority for us. Let's get a station. Our initial thought was a combined station because we were one department. Maybe a second floor, a couple bays, one for the ambulance, a couple for the rescue trucks. And that's the process. But so when I was the director of the both combined department, I look around, I said, okay, where's the city land? Where can we build? Found a few spots. One of them was next to Sunset Beach Elementary. But what my boss told me to do, Mike Formby, our managing director, who's a great boss, told me, go to the community. They know the community. And frankly, I'm from Windward, Oahu. I don't come up to this community. I'm a guest. Thank you. Been in the water out here, but I don't live out here. I don't know the ins and outs of the different properties. And overwhelmingly, I start hearing, look at the Sharks Cove property. You should put it the Sharks Cove property. So we came out, we talked, got feedback, and it was very clear to me, as I said in the city council, that when we came to the folks who are the experts, you told us where you wanted the first responder center. So now I'm just going to talk about a little bit from the EMS perspective going forward, and then I'll let Director Lager talk about the ocean safety. And now I'm going to get to the board. We add ambulance service. There's 2 things that drive new ambulances. One is call volume, and one is geography. Call volume is like downtown Honolulu. There's a call there every 6 minutes or so. We probably need another ambulance or 2 in downtown Honolulu. That's volume. The other issue is geography. And its geography is maybe there's not as many calls, but it just takes so long for the ambulances to get to the site, especially if the nearest one is on a call already. That's the other reason. So in our internal planning for EMS, 2 of the places we've identified that geographically need ambulances is one, Waikane, which is somewhere down here, Waikane, and one is this area right here. So really we have, as somebody says earlier, we had Kaneohe, we have Kahuku. Kahuku we'll try to take people to Kahuku Hospital. They have a great ER staff, but there's no backup to that. There's no, specialists in the hospital. They can't take pediatrics. So if it's somebody who really is sick and needs to stay in the hospital, chances are they're going to go down here to Castle. They're going to go to Wahiawa, which is Queens Wahiawa now. Thank God it's open. Or like Ian said, they got rerouted to Kapiolani, which is way in town through Wahiawa and all that stuff. So we really need something here to split the difference between Kaneohe and Kahuku, and we really need something here to split the difference between Kahuku and Wailua. So that's one thing. So having an ambulance here will definitely service this community for the snorkeler who gets hurt in Sharks Cove, for someone with chest pain in the community, for the car accident. But more importantly, so you don't have to wait for these guys, but then if these guys go out, you don't have to wait for this guy or for this guy. You get the next closest ambulance. Because right now, if there's a call in here, one of these two is coming. And if they go to Wahiawa or they go to Castle, they're going to be out of the area for a long time. So geographically, we want an ambulance here. The other thing is, there's sometimes that we need more than one ambulance at a scene. And I apologize for being a little distracted in the beginning of this meeting. We just had a shooting on the west side of Oahu with 4 victims. So I was talking with our dispatch and texting and just making sure the ambulances work. And the team actually takes care of this without me, but I'm just, monitoring and make sure Queens can take all the patients. And so that we sent 3 ambulances to the west side of Oahu. Up here, what's more common, fortunately not shootings, but car accidents. And then we've had some bad ones in front of Gunstock Ranch. We just had a bad one the day of the funeral, right in front of the bakery. We've had a few out in front of Chun's, I remember over the years. And a lot of times there's 2, 3, 4 people that are hurt. We need to send 2 or 3 ambulances. So again, 1, 2, but if one of these is on a call, you're waiting for one of these. So to have 3 ambulances up here, to me, is really needed. But then you have to put it somewhere. And that's why we need a facility. A facility with a garage, a little kitchen, basically like a small fire station. Our footprint is usually a little smaller than the fire department, but we need for them to somewhere to stay. And the other thing is when we put those in communities, there's people that just show up, and the ambulance is parked out front, they know they're there, they're having an emergency, they just come in and we're right there to help people. So we really want to be in the community. The process is we identify a site, then we put planning money in the budget, do an archaeological survey, make sure there's no culturally important sites there, environmentally it's okay. That takes about a year. That's all good. Then we put in design money in the next year's budget, and that's to do the drawings and the architecture and all that. And then in the 3rd year, we put in the actual construction money. So the whole process takes usually 3 to 5 years. It can be sped up a little bit if certain things go faster. If we do design and build in the same contract, we can save a year. But this is a multi-year process. It's a well thought out process. Having community input is like the best, because how many times in government do they do something and then the community afterwards says, no, that's not what we wanted, because you didn't come and talk to us. So I think it's going to be great to have an ambulance out here. I think it's going to be great to have a facility out here. I think we want to try to get Waikani in next year's budget, but I think for Sunset Beach will be in the following year's budget is what I think we have kind of talked about before. And of course, we always rely on our council to help get that in and get that approved and made a priority. So I really would like to have an ambulance out here within 3 years. That's my vision. And if you have a plot of land, it doesn't have to be built on. We can put a mobile home type trailer on it temporarily while we build. We did that in Waipio. We did that in our Metro station on Yonge Street. And we had visitors. I forget how many people came, but you guys came and looked at the Waipio station. And what we have planned out here probably wouldn't even be that big. But that's on a 1 acre parcel. We could probably do it on a ½ acre parcel. So our footprint is small, but we love being in communities. We have a lot of people in EMS who live out here. And that's the other thing. People who work in our department would love, for the most part, to work in their neighborhoods and have a short commute to work, take care of their friends and neighbors. So, you know, we'd have no shortage of takers. Is Ian still here? You know, Kahuku's probably our most popular station because they like, is Kahuku our most popular station, one of top 3?
I'd say Kahuku or Wailua or Kailua.
And it's because of the people in those neighborhoods. It's because of the pace. It's not too busy, but they do get some calls. And it's just nice places to work. So I think if we put a station out here, probably we'd have a line of people wanting to come. Yeah. So I'll kind of wrap up there. Ian, anything else you want to say? I mean, you've been with us, what, at least 10 years, right?
16.
Okay.
Right about the geography of it, how we just took a call to Pilani, we were gone 3 hours. If you take on the castle, that's easily 2.5 hours. So, and just the other night, I worked at Puhuku, we had a traffic accident, and our closest backup would come from Hawaii Kai. So we lucked out, like, I took 3 people and the HPD took 1, so we just got lucky on that. But like you said, resources are thin out there. Good to have another.
Yeah.
For sure.
And do you guys ever go a shift with no calls? Is that possible anymore?
Maybe once in a while, not really.
30 years ago, we used to call that a no-hitter. It's like, oh, we got through a shift with no calls, and it doesn't happen anymore.
Not anymore.
So we need a rig out here. I'm glad you guys are here to support our team. That means a lot to us. Like I said, I go to some of these with half a dozen people, and it just kind of makes me feel sad for that community and those people that are so committed, but I just know they don't have their friends and neighbors with them. To be honest, I've never seen actually anything this vigorous. So I really hope.
Don't trip, Dr. Ireland.
Oh, I'm in good hands. We'll be gone for 2 hours, but.
Thank you. How many ambulances are on island? We're gonna,
21 or 24 hours, and then we have one that's 12 hours, so 22.
Thank you.
Oh, sorry, yes.
Question 2. How many of the people that you service are actually tourists out here?
Ian?
Percentage of tourists versus
Like for
locals?
calls in the Sunset Beach area, this area? Half? Or what do you
It
think?
varies. I mean, wintertime, definitely the call volume goes up with surfing, drowning, and stuff like that. And I can't say tourists or not. I'd say it's equal.
If it's a Sharks Cove snorkeler, 95% chance it's a tourist. Somebody get washed off the rocks at Sharks Cove. I mean, well, you know from the ocean. I'll let Kurt talk about the ocean stuff, but the medicals, I mean, if we're up in the neighborhoods, it's somebody who lives here. If it's an ocean or car accident,
Yeah, it's
more tourists, I would say.
Majority locals, but every now and then you get a tourist that gets in trouble.
So Dr. Ireland's gonna stick around for more questions. I'm sure Ian's got things to do, but I just elevated it to Doctor, Director Lager.
Thank you so much, guys, for having me here. It's really impressive to see the community come out like this, and I've just listened to everyone talk and how much you guys care about what happens in your community. It's really great to see. My name's Kurt Lager. I'm the acting director of ocean safety. I'm still getting used to the director title. It's been about 1 month now. I still like to just be called a lifeguard. We're lifeguards for life. I'd like to just talk about our facilities up here. As we know, we're talking about First Responder Center. Who here has been by our, what we call our substation over at Rock Piles? Do you guys take pictures of it because it looks awesome and it's really nice? Yeah, it's a beautiful location. It serves its purpose in some way, but it's in dire need of being replaced, and we've outgrown that location. As Dr. Ireland mentioned, we came from the Parks Department. So around the island, the majority of the facilities that we occupy are still under parks. We have broken ground in Kailua, and we're building our first ever ocean safety facility in Kailua, and we've taken over a couple fire stations in Haula and in Eva Beach. So to me, seeing the energy behind this and to have a first responder center makes perfect sense. The North Shore lifeguards, let's talk about them for a minute. I'll go ahead and say they're probably the most well-known lifeguards around the world. Hands down. They respond from here to here. They are by far the biggest district. There are roughly about 60 of them, not working every day, but there is 60 in this district, and we have 5 districts around the island, and each district has between 40 and 60 lifeguards. I heard someone say it, but yes, they are so good that they made a TV show, which airs on September 22nd. So we're still housed under these parks facilities. I think a first responder center makes perfect sense. I think the location makes sense. We definitely need something. We can't stay in the facility we're in for much longer. Part of my job is to find where we're gonna go. I'm looking at existing facilities, other fire stations that may be vacant soon, and I'm open to Sharks Cove or wherever we can do it, because the community needs the support. So, thank you very much.
Okay, we're doing great on time. We have time for about 20 minutes of Q&A. Can I ask all 3 gentlemen to come up? Hang on one second. Let's get our proper staging of our cast here. Me in front.
Please, I'm gonna jump in. I have a 4-word
Okay,
question.
let me say.
How can we help?
There we go. Hey, Bill Quinlan, whoa, ask your question. Okay. What do we gotta do? Let's get an answer to Bill's question first. Go ahead.
Off they go. Well, first of all, I'm not a legal scholar. If anybody here has blood pressure issues, I'm your guy. From my standpoint, I think we can get the funding through council and the mayor to build this facility for EMS and for ocean safety. I think the biggest question is can we get it on Sharks Cove? I mean, that's the biggest question. And, I think that the short answer is I think the landowner has to be willing to sell. And that I understand is the sticking point. So.
Did that answer your question, Bill? Well, if anyone here knows the owner, please get the owner to sell. That's the point.
Thank you, Bill. Let me, so can you just say your name and we'll.
Alicia Hill, Pupakea.
Perfect.
So, what you were saying earlier geographically, I'm just gonna tell you a little story. Last week, husband has stomach pain, right? I'm rushing him down Pupakea because you don't have any idea what it is. I go to the fire department, lovely people, they can't do anything. I'm rushing him to Kahuku, 40 minutes away, 45 minutes. They stabilize him, then I have to drive him to Kailua because there's no ambulance, right? Then 4 days later, we have another emergency with the same technical, right? This is just this last week. Ambulance call. We had to get Wailua. Nobody's close enough, right? People, like you said. And then by the time they show up, fire department shows up, they kind of stabilize him. They basically take his blood pressure and wait for the ambulance, right? Because the ambulance can do the IV, they can set him up, they can take care of him. Then we take him all the way to Kailua, right? So I'm understanding exactly what you're saying, which can happen to anyone, right? There's no other ambulances in our area to take anything that goes wrong in our neighborhood. Now, my understanding, my question is, when you were saying, I was in the understanding when I guess, reading the paper and everything, that he was willing to sell. So I guess I'm lost at that is because it was in the paper that said he was willing to sell.
Yeah.
What happened?
Yeah.
Where did that go wrong, or what is it, too much money, what do we,
Agreed. So, again, I don't want to speak for Mayor, but I'll just share what was talked about at the town hall, right? And I think he's engaged in conversations. I saw the article, there's a few articles on it, but I know one specifically where the owner had mentioned not getting an offer. Talking to Mayor and what he shared publicly, I think it's been relayed that at this point the owner wasn't interested in selling. Is not interested.
I think we have to also know that he's had that property up for sale twice since it was purchased 10 years ago. Months after he purchased it, was for sale, and after that, a year or two, again, he had it for sale. So in the last 10 years, that property's been up for sale 2 times.
So can we go to the mayor? What is it we can do to push, to make sure this is happening, that this conversation is happening?
We do have a call to action, but I'm gonna have Councilmember Weyer respond first.
Well, I'll just throw it, Mayor, I think, has made a good faith effort. He said he talked to the owner, I think, 4 times, something like that. And so, I think in terms of other options, I mean, we can look at different legal options. But in terms of it, where we are at this point, if we're looking for a location, I think for me, it's making sure that we have funding to specifically purchase this, right?
Correct.
But then also, aside from wherever it's gonna go, start the planning process.
That I agree with, how we stop the mall.
I welcome input
Yeah.
as well.
I think Blake, let's get some answers to this question, so make sure you can, Blake, did you wanna?
I just wanted to very briefly reference back to some comments that you made earlier in the beginning, is that this community has demonstrated time and time again, when there is a strong community vision based off of shared common values, we are able to get the ears of landowners who originally may not be interested in what we're proposing. And the property right behind Sunset Beach Elementary School is a perfect example. It took a lot of hard work, a lot of people in this room, but the landowner who was originally not willing to sell, and there were some initial discussions where at first the feedback was no, not willing. But as we worked harder and harder and made more compelling messages, the landowner themselves began to understand the value in those past instances. Same thing with Waimea Valley. We were faced with the possibility of pretty much an amusement park in Waimea Valley. And through discussions and through gatherings like this, our elected officials and agency heads were able to help us develop a shared message so that the landowners opened up their ears and wanted to become a part of this momentum that's being created. So I just wanted to mention that, yeah, there may be points in time where the answer is no, but that's not permanent, and we can move forward towards yes. Thank you.
And I wanted to, Corey's gonna just talk for 1 second about what we're asking you to do to help, but I do wanna mention that Waimea Valley, ultimately it was settled, right? And there was a lot of public money that went into saving Waimea Valley, but our former council member, Reen Mantra, actually introduced a resolution in city council to condemn the property. And that was how Waimea Valley was saved, folks, through condemnation. Ultimately, the landowner got compensated. But I just wanted to mention, it was a long road, but that played a critical tool. So Corey, what are we asking people to do?
If you guys walked in, you might have noticed like the photo booth. Our mayor, used to work in media. And so one of the things that we're asking you folks to do is, first email the mayor and ask him to, because what I understand, he hasn't made an offer. Is that right? He hasn't made an actual offer. So this is something we want, and to urge him to make an offer. The second thing, you can call his office and do the same thing. Please, this is what we want and we need, make an offer. The third thing that you folks could do that would help, and like I said, information with different generations are different. And just right off, I'm just looking at the crowd, and Rex is over here passing out like paper flyers. But if you have a social media account, and I have to say, like, people of my generation, that is how they're getting their information. They're not picking up the paper flyers. They're not looking at the Midweek. So, I mean, I'm sorry, like, that's great, but
Rex is gonna give us a test though.
So urge your post it on your social media if you have like Instagram or Facebook, one of those pictures, make an offer with your picture or just and tag the mayor, and I think it's at Mayor Rick Tunnel. And if you have a younger person in your household, then maybe have the word spread that way as well, because the mayor, from what I understand, does care about the media.
So keep it positive, right? We want to encourage him to do the right thing. It's a doable thing. It's a doable thing.
Oh,
it's a doable thing.
Hold on. We want to, if you guys are willing, if you don't want to, just put your head down. But if we could get a quick, it's gonna take 2 seconds, if we can get one video of all of us saying it together. Mr. Mayor, make an offer. It's a doable thing. Make an offer. I need a mic stick.
Oh, you got it? Okay. We're gonna start with it's a doable thing and then Mr. Mayor make an offer. It's a doable thing. It's a doable thing. It's a doable thing. Mr. Mayor, make an offer. Mr. Mayor, make an offer. Last time. Mr. Mayor, make an offer. We have room for more questions. I saw more hands. Yes, sir. Can you just say your name?
Yeah, my name's Terry Lilly. Quick question, but I want to thank this person right over here first, because I had a heart attack right over here a few years back, and your people kept me alive, and we had to go all the way to Straub Hospital. And I'm here tonight. I know, and I'm here tonight, and the whole way I'm going, I pray, I pray, I pray. So having somewhere close by would be very beneficial. I'm a marine biologist, and I've done a 300-hour underwater documentary movie of the marine life here in Sharks Cove, which is available for everyone to see. It took 10 years, and we have a huge reduction in marine life right out here, of which I can show and prove on video. I'm working with NOAA and USGS on this project. Has anyone looked into that building a mall right across the street from a marine sanctuary could cause an increase in traffic, pollution, oil from the road that would degrade a marine sanctuary? I also have a degree in environmental law, so I get kind of passionate about this. So there may be a bunch of things to look into as to why a mall wouldn't even be legal to build across the street from the very precious marine sanctuary. And thank you all for what you do.
I will give a partial answer to that. I mentioned it earlier, but I'll just repeat it because I know people have been in and out. In the developer's own environmental impact statement, and there's a copy around here somewhere, the studies of the geophysics and the subsurface of those 3 parcels and of Sharks Cove predicts with this development, of course it'll never be built, but if it's ever built, leaching of nitrogen and phosphorus between 4 to 6% into the tide pools. And that may not sound like a lot, but they're sensitive areas. And imagine if I went down with a bucket every day and I just dumped that in there, you would arrest me, right? So that's the projection from the thousands of tourists that will use that wastewater system. This, what we hope to build there, is a much smaller footprint. There's only a few staff there every day. It's teeny, even compared smaller than what's there now. So that's a partial answer to your question. Yes, that project will have a detrimental impact on the marine life by their own studies. This question and then Kathleen, go ahead.
Hi, I'm Zach. I'm a registered nurse at Cuckoo ER. I also work at Kaiser Emergency Room, and I was wondering, as a nurse, how can I kind of light a fire in the hospital world? Because, you know, we're a huge coalition too, so how can we help from that perspective?
You know, I think I'm happy to take your contact information and vice versa. There's a few different ways. One is all the hospitals on Oahu and the state are part of the Healthcare Association of Hawaii, HAH, run by right now Hilton Rathel. So messaging through your hospital to Hilton, because HH, you know, we deal with them, the mayor deals with them. You're welcome to, you know, also call the mayor's office directly as an employee of, say, Kahuku, right?
Kahuku, yeah.
Yes, and Kaiser.
And Kaiser.
That, you know, you feel, you know, the medical needs would be better if we had, you know, another ambulance here, or, you know, so reaching out, I think, and what you said, you know, contacting the mayor's office, social media posts, you know, especially the positive ones, and just maybe through your hospital administration, contacting the Healthcare Association, I think are all ways you can engage government, you know, in a positive way through Kahuku.
Because that affects all the hospitals. It is so hard to get patients out sometimes from Kahuku to where they need to go quickly.
Thank you for emphasizing, thank you for your service and your colleagues, and thank you for emphasizing what a absolutely critical lifeline we have out here. It's pretty thin right now, so thank you
Kathleen, I think?
Okay, Kathleen Parkinui, nice to see everybody here tonight. And I happen to know the chair of the North Shore Neighborhood Board pretty well. And I see all the Sunset Beach reps here tonight. So I highly recommend that they email her and ask to put something on the agenda that says to the mayor, keeping it very positive, that Mr. Mayor, we want you to make an offer.
And if you don't know, she is the chair. And just let me know or let her know. Uncle Bob, what a nice shirt Uncle Bob wore tonight for you.
Your office was researching the public information maps. And I've been told in the past, it was important to try and get on the map as part of the process, the acquisition process. And I was curious what you guys found out when you researched.
So you're talking about putting what's called a PIM symbol
Yes.
public infrastructure.
Yes.
Yeah, and so to do the planning and design, you don't have to have a PIM symbol. To use funds to acquire property, you have to put a PIM symbol onto that parcel. Just a symbol on a map, pretty much. They would be done through council resolution.
Okay.
Yes, Rex, and then I see Alan and then John, so we have.
So I'm thinking from what just Matt just said, that maybe we should write letters to all the council people and say how important this is to us, to let them know that we're concerned and that it's urgent. So all the council people, and you can go online, everybody, you know, you can do it.
Said teacher Rex. Here, hang on a second, Alan, and then.
No, I just had a question about
Okay, we got
emailing
two more
everyone.
after you. Go ahead.
I would love, I'm confused, that's all I can say, is I've emailed a lot of people about this project here and never got an email back. And I've had, I'm not joking, 50 million views on my underwater work, and I've got like 75,000 people on Facebook and all that crap. But I'm having a hard time of knowing where to send this beautiful information to.
Over to the mayor.
Just directly to the mayor?
Yep, that'd be
Okay.
awesome. Maybe powerful work sent to the mayor with your message. That would
Okay,
be
thank
great.
you.
And then I think Rex's suggestion's a great one, council members. Okay, we've got questions.
You know, maybe Andy Sugg.
And, oh yeah, the mayor's chief of staff, his name is Andy Sugg, great guy, he's
S-U-G-G.
trying to help. And so also to Andy Sugg. We've got 4 questions. Alan, do you have a question?
Okay, well, I was following up on what Bob said with him, because I got some emails on that, and maybe Matt might be the best person who can discuss it, and I'm not sure if this is the right forum.
I think he just answered it.
Well, what I'm saying is the PIM can also be utilized once they've excluded all other locations as a trigger for eminent domain, if I'm not correct. I'm not sure if I'm correct on that.
So your question is?
Is the PIM mechanism necessary for the city to consider eminent domain if they've excluded all of the other options in the region? Would the PIM be a necessary mechanism for the city to start a
So
process?
the PIM would be useful in any acquisition process, whether it's through, you know, a taking in a domain or market, just a purchase. So it's a good question.
Yeah.
So I guess that's a part of, as a group, I think, actually, I mean, I put it out to you and think we can flesh it out. And I think just from the conversations I've been having with the community, it seems like we're at a space where we're hopeful that the owner may contemplate a willingness to sell, but then where do we go from there? And I'm open to ideas and welcome input. So just throwing that out.
Thank you. Thanks, Alan. So John, and then I'm gonna switch over here, the outside gang. John, go ahead.
Hi, my name's John Tills. I'm part of the Alliance. I was part of the lawsuit. I live on Pahaway Road right next to the circus. Been a resident out here for 38 years. And, you know, I've been involved in this fight for almost 10 years now. And I've been to multiple meetings and events that, and city council whereas a developer has stood right there and said, they're all about the community, all about the community. We grew up here, all about the community. Well, I'm saying that if you're all about the community, sell this property, put the property where your mouth is and do something for the community.
I just have I'm of the generation that still reads these pieces. And I want to thank the EMS and the lifeguards who have come out, and over the last 50 years I've been involved, sometimes not by choice, with your services, and it's just wonderful. And I really appreciate you showing us clearly how our location needs more support because of the geographic and the timing and all that.
Who made that sign? I want to thank them.
But my comment is actually
That might walk out with me.
We can give it to you to make another copy.
You'll see it in session maybe. Perfect.
As long as it's useful.
My
Okay.
comment is actually for Councilman Weyer. Thank you so much for being here. And as I look at this little piece of paper, and I know the Sustainable North Shore Community Plan and the SMA Special Management things that were changed for them. And there's a lot of passion and work and money and government effort that goes into all of these. So, and then even the lawsuit settlement agreement requires a lot of effort and money and time and passion. And this is such an elegant solution to our need for a geographic support for safety and ocean safety and compliance with all this passion and work that has been spent already. So if condemnation or something needs to happen to help the landowner want to sell, I think the community would be very grateful.
I appreciate that. I think most people have it, but my email address is in my first initial and then my last name, Weyer, at honolulu.gov. And so I know we're talking about who we're going to email. If you share that perspective, and maybe you can also email me your thoughts on that, and then I'm gonna.
Could you write your email address?
Yeah, is this a writable form?
Okay, well, we'll take the next question. Hey,
Back on that one.
okay, but she had her hand up, so I'm sorry. Go ahead, your name and go ahead. Yep.
Sure, my name's Nicole.
Everybody.
I live on Pupukea. Some of you guys know me as Luca's mom, basically. I think there's two things that I'd like to say. One is, I'd like to know who the developer is. First name, last name, phone number, email. And I think it's worth it to let them know, as a community, this is how we feel, directly to them. There's no reason not to. If they live here, and I'm not sure they do, then, and if they don't, then they need to know this is what the community that they own property in feels like they need. Because I think as a group, we're probably all in agreement that what they've done so far is a disaster for our neighborhood, for the traffic, for the environment. It's a disaster.
One thing about our footprint in EMS is we generally have 2 people on the ambulance. So we would have 2 people there, and I think Ocean Safety would have 4 to 6 people. So we're talking about 8 people on the footprint, not coming and going unless there's an emergency. I think it'd actually be less of a footprint than there is currently if we were to charge code.
It would certainly be less of a footprint. Right now, I mean, there is people double parked, pulling out from the beginning of where 3 Tables is, all the way now, all the way down to the church. Not to mention that they're pulling in all through Keiki's.
And believe me, I speak as someone who's trying to teach my 16-year-old how to drive.
Good luck, Lucas. I will say the name because it's not a secret. We've been trying to be really respectful, right? And this is, I do want to say this respectfully. But the landowner has, there was that special meeting in Waimea Valley we had 6 years ago or something, a landowner came. So the land is owned by an LLC called Hanapohaku LLC. The principals of that corporation are Andrew Yanni and his wife is Julie Judd, and Cully Judd, who had his beach house out here. Cully was a principal with Andrew Yanni, but sadly Cully has passed away, as has Carol. So the principal behind the project is Andrew Yanni, and there's a gentleman named Michael Hodge who's the project manager, but the ownership is Hanapohaku LLC, and you can see that on the plans in the back, so it's not a secret.
And I think those of us who have lived here a couple of years know who those people are.
Yeah, and you had said, do they live here? No, they live in town, but a lot of you know Cully had a house out here for many years. So thank you for that. So many questions.
I just do want to throw out,
Yeah.
and I have a lot of faith and trust in this community. So just but want to acknowledge that all the engagement is, of course, especially in the climate we're in now, it's always going to be respectful and safe, but expressing our heart, right? And so I trust everyone to do that, but just given where we're at, I just wanted to acknowledge that.
Start with aloha, right? And keep it in your heart, and that's what, okay, so we have a bunch of questions, we really only have like 10 minutes, so rapid fire questions.
I just have a quick question about.
Come on in and say your name.
Oh, sorry. My name is Krista Lee.
Hi, Krista.
Part of the. I have a question about possibly not protesting necessarily, but just giving the environmental impact study to DPP, possibly before they start to even look at plans for this mall. If we can all kind of like massively do that as well, is that an option?
You raised a good point, which we haven't mentioned, which is DPP has been processing the building permits with those plans for many years, and we keep hearing rumors that they're gonna come out at any day. We don't know that that's true. So DPP already did review and approve the EIS that I mentioned. We sued because we didn't think that approval was proper. So we did exactly what you said, and that resulted in litigation and the settlement that we're still trying to enforce. If those building permits issue, it's for 3 two-story buildings and all of the infrastructure. So that's all public information. You go on DPP's website and those permits, I'm sorry, there's a lot of check marks saying approve, 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 approve. They are in the last bit of approvals. The city council, with Matt Weyer voting no, the rest of the city council approved an extension of time on all these permits. Their extension of time runs until November of 25. If they don't get the permits by November 25, who knows what'll happen, but it's their 3rd extension for their permits. So I thank you, because that prompted me to, it could be tomorrow.
Do you think?
This is not hypothetical. Another comment?
Do you think us as like a community would like boost them to kind of, like, I know that you've gone through all the litigations and everything, but as just community coming together, saying absolutely not, we do not want this, this is awful, kind of just like.
You can also, in addition to positive messages to the mayor, positive messages to the director of Department of Planning and Permitting, Donna Puna, great person in that position, and you just encourage her to not approve the permits. So there's multiple, and what we'll do is if you please give your name, our contact information, we'll give you all that information later. Okay, we have some more questions real quick. Jim, go ahead.
Yeah, I've heard that the city brought up the fact that they already own the 30 or 33 acres Malka of Cam Highway right adjacent to the school. Has there been an argument, why should we buy Sharks Cove when we already have this property? Has that come up, or is that?
Well, I mean, internally, when I discussed this with the mayor, you just, common sense is you take what's free versus what you have to pay for.
Right.
But because of the community, the swell of support for Sharks Cove,
we just couldn't, in good faith, move forward with that without listening and trying this avenue. So that's why we're here. The cost to build is the same, but the property acquisition, hypothetically, well, I'm not even gonna say a number. Let's say it's X to buy the Sharks Cove property, and it's 0 for the next to Sunset Beach Elementary. There are ways I've learned to get funding that wouldn't necessarily come from the normal city budget. So the obstacle really is will the landowner sell? And then the next phase is getting the funding creatively to purchase the property. And I think we would have help with that. And then building a structure is the same whether it's site A or B. So this is driven by you folks, and that's why we're here, and that's why we're in government, to serve you.
I do want to give each of them a minute to wrap up, and we do have to break down in about 5 minutes. So rapid fire, Charlene, and then you, and let's go quick.
Rapid fire. So it sounds to me there are other possibilities here that we want Sharks Cove, number one. What is the process for eminent domain in terms of things like it takes longer for condemnation, number one. Number two, the mayor has met with them 4 times. What were they discussing?
I'll start with the latter. I don't know if any of us know the answer to the last question.
No, I'm just
'cause we weren't there. Yeah.
I don't know the answer.
Yeah, so that's a good question. I mean, I'm just gonna take him at his word. I know he came out to the community. And as Denise had mentioned, recognizes the value of this particular location. I can't necessarily say that doing eminent domain on this parcel is gonna be faster in getting us to the final outcome than starting the process on another location, say Sunset Beach. Can't guarantee that, because it would go through court process, they file a complaint to, begin
Sounds
that.
like it would take longer.
Well, I don't wanna necessarily say that, cause there's probably discussion points about what you're gonna be building versus what are you using that's already there, and what kind of development's gonna be needed versus a parcel that maybe already have some basic infrastructure. And so I think that director's 3-year timeline for starting the process from not the eminent domain, but from the planning to construction would probably be kind of similar, and you could possibly add timeline to that, right, for the actual.
Okay, thank you. We have just those 2 more questions. Sorry, where were they? You have questions. Say your name, please.
Bruce Dunn. One of the principal obstacles is we don't have a willing seller. In prior life, I was involved in a similar situation in a rural beach community with the landowner. We sued, and in the end, he became a willing seller. And I would suggest that is a legitimate tactic here. And another development was restricted to emphasis on local services. Within 5 years, it was all changed, and that's not gonna work. It changed to outside tourist venues. So I say sue, and a lot of legitimate basis, and he will be a willing seller, and he will, because he will not be able to afford to carry on the fight. And we won years ago, we won. And we got a park, and then we got a huge park. And that's what we did, sued.
Yeah, I was gonna say, face the audience when you say that. That's not their.
I'm the blood pressure guy.
Yeah. Somebody's blood pressure just went up too. Okay.
I was gonna ask a question.
Yeah,
So,
please.
cause I know you had read Rep. Quinlan's statement, and so he committed to working with the county too.
Yeah.
Okay, and so I'll
Yes,
definitely
yes.
follow
Yeah,
up
yeah.
with him after this meeting as well. We've talked of course about it along the way, but hopefully we'll also look at avenues the state could use, as well. I think those are all on the table. Just wanted to know, my email is up here in case anybody needs it.
Last question.
Sorry, can we just get the mayor's email address as well on the board?
Yes, I'll
And
write it.
then just one question, are we also considering a police substation there as well?
So, actually, not a police substation. In our discussions with the police, they actually have told us they don't want a substation. However, they would like a place, you know, where they park now, out here, right? And it's great. However, they don't seem to have access to the bathrooms. So, so what we're hoping for, we didn't really mention it, is the police and co-care for DLNR would have a place to hang out, drop their guns, use the restrooms in a secure way, you know, just treat them like human beings. Yeah, just so they would have a place to hang out, which increases community safety from that visibility. And also, you know, it's great, we have all that kind of, so they wouldn't necessarily, they've told us that they don't actually want office space. They work out of their cars, they're much more comfortable working out of their cars and vehicles, but having a place where they can hang out, go, stop, refresh, have lunch, use the bathroom is pretty darn important, and we're not providing that right now.
A small actually conference room would potentially be, you know, when we had the funeral here, was that 3 weeks ago or so? This facility right here was the operations center for the police to do the traffic control. We have an EMS dispatcher command here, and we use this facility. But we could have something like this, but maybe smaller there, that if Department of Emergency Management, you know, civil defense folks had an incident up here and needed a little command space, police to come in, write their reports, bathrooms, just a little kind of a city area that wasn't big, maybe half the size of this room. That could be something that's also on the table for this.
I want to add to something Dr. Arlen said, and then give them a chance to wrap up. We didn't really mention all of this, but that open space is really resilience, disaster response open space, as well as conservation. So it could be used if we're cut off in a disaster for, you know, a disaster setup. It's temporary, but you know, we have needed it and we are gonna need it, as are other communities. So that open space is meant to be flexible, so you could do staging, disaster tents or whatever, but not to be built on. At least that's the vision we've pursued so far. So it's environmental buffer, but also helps us in the event of a disaster, in addition to the other sites that we have. I do want to give our special guest a chance, like 1 minute each to wrap up.
I'm going to yield mine, because I think I've talked enough.
I'll just say thank you. I can't reiterate enough that I think around the island we have the best lifeguards in the world. And we deserve facilities that we're able to do our job out of, and be able to store our equipment and not, when it rains, have it leak through onto our papers and computers and have stuff get broken into all the time. So we're the greatest lifeguards in the world. We don't have the greatest facilities in the world, and we need to get there.
Councilmember Weyer.
Okay, so before everyone goes, again, my email is up there. You can email me about any issue in the community, not just this. Again, I wanted to just note why you would be emailing me. I do already support the first responders. I think what I'm interested in hearing from is if you folks think, because the question came up about how appropriate beginning in the main process would be. And what I'll do is I'll compile any emails I get on that. And I think that would help direct the conversations that we have with stakeholders, mayor, and then also kind of stakeholders on the end. Wanted to just end by saying thank you for taking time on an evening, right? To come on and talk story about this, and just, like I said, I'm inspired by your passion, and I'm here to serve your support.
Okay, thank you.